Hello guys, welcome back. So now again today we have two different questions. So first question is very common, that is what is the use of the switch port mode access command. As you know, everyone is aware about it. If you are going to make a port as access port, then there this command is required. But my question is, suppose there is interface, I am going to execute the same command interface G0 by 1 and I am just going to use switch port access VLAN and VLAN number, suppose VLAN number is 10. So what will happen in that case? Also this port is going to become a member of the VLAN 10. So why this command is required? Switch port mode access command. Why it is? What is the purpose of this command? If I'm not going to use this command, then still this port is going to become a member of the VLAN 10. So why we need to use the switch port mode access command? So basically guys, what is the purpose of this command? As you know, the by default DTP protocol is enabled on the Cisco devices, Cisco Catalyst switches. By default DTP is enabled. DTP, dynamic trunking protocol. What is the purpose of this protocol? To make the link, to make the trunk port dynamically. That is the main purpose. So by default DTP protocol is enabled. Either the mode will be the dynamic auto, either the mode will be the dynamic desirable. If you are talking about the older Catalyst switches, so there the by default mode was there desirable, but later Catalyst switches the mode is dynamic auto. So if we are not going to use this command, still port will be into the DTP protocol will be still enabled there, and what will be the mode? Mode will be there the auto or desirable. So to disable the DTP protocol, basically the command is switch port mode access. That command is required to disable the DTP protocol. The question can be the also reverse. What is the first question is? Right now the question is switch port mode access command. What is the purpose of this command? The question can be the reverse, like what is the command to disable the DTP protocol on the particular interface? So this command is basically required to disable the DTP protocol on the interface. The next question, what is the use of the port ID? Just try to understand, guys. Interviewer, they don't have much more time. They're not going to ask you what is the root bridge, what is the root port election process, what is the what is the election process for the designated port. They can directly ask you what is the use of the port ID, where it will be used. So guys, port ID basically will be used in case of root port election. First step in STP protocol, what will happen? It will elect a root bridge. So we have a scenario where the two switches we have right now, switch 1 and switch 2. Switch 1 have a priority 32768 and MAC address is this one. Switch 2 have a priority this one and MAC address is this one. In this case, which switch is going to become a root bridge? So switch 1 will become a root bridge because of the lowest bridge ID. Bridge ID means lowest MAC address is here. Priority is same. What is the MAC address? Here till the 11 digit MAC address is also same. Only the last digit is here 1 and here 2. So in this topology, switch 1 is going to become a root bridge. So if it is a root bridge, both the port will become DP. And this is the root bridge now. This is non-root bridge switch. So question is, which port is going to become an RP and which port is going to become an alternate port? So what will happen? First, it will look up the cost. Cost, as you know, it's a gig Ethernet. So cost will be there 4. Cost is equal for both the link. Then it will look up the sender bridge ID. Sender bridge ID is here also who is the sender? Switch 1. And here also who is the sender? Switch 1. So sender bridge ID is also tie. Then after that, what it will look up? It will look up the sender port ID. Sender port ID is, what is the port ID? In the port ID, there is two things. One is the port priority, which is default 128. And another one is the port number. So what will the port ID of this one? That will be the 128.1. And what will be the port ID of this one? That will be 128.2. So it will prefer the lowest sender port ID. So this port is going to become an RP. It is going to become RP, and this one is going to become alternate port. Why it is going to become the RP? Because of the lowest sender port ID. So in the interviewer, they're not going to ask you what is the root bridge election process, what is the cost, what is the role of the cost. Simple, they can ask you the single question and they can judge you guys. You have idea about the spanning tree or not. So it's simple question, what is the use of the port ID? So in spanning tree, so port ID is basically going to use to elect the root port. In the root port election process, first priority is going to check the cost. If the cost is tie or cost is equal, then sender bridge ID will work as a tiebreaker. Sender bridge ID, if it is also equal, then it will be use the sender port ID. It will be used sender port ID. So if the cost is tie, then sender bridge ID will work as a tiebreaker. If the sender port ID is tie, then it will be sender bridge ID is tie, then sender port ID will work as a tiebreaker. So there the port ID will be used, guys. Thank you.